A bitter confrontation, a packed bag, and a .38 caliber revolver. We're dropping straight into the chilling reality of Andy Dufresne's trial in 1947. Imagine being a young, successful vice president of a Portland bank, suddenly accused of a gruesome double murder, your wife and her lover, the local golf pro. Andy's defense leans entirely on a timeline. He admits he parked outside the lover's house, drunk and confused for sure, but maintains he sobered up, drove home, and tossed his gun into the Royal River. And hey, the police dragged that river for 3 days and found absolutely nothing, but the prosecutor paints a far colder picture. Here's the thing, a revolver holds 6 bullets, right? Yet 8 shots were fired. 4 for each victim. That meant the killer literally emptied the gun, paused to reload, and shot each of them again in the head. The state paints Andy as this icy, remorseless man. And with that, his fate is totally sealed.
By the power vested in me by the state of Maine, I hereby order you to serve 2 life sentences back to back, 1 for each victim. Bam! Just like that, for Andy, that gavel strike marked the absolute end of his previous existence. As Ellis Boyd Redding, known to everyone simply as Red, a guy who's already served 20 years of his own life sentence, observes, the first night at Shawshank State Prison is specifically designed to break you. They march the new fish in naked, skin burning and half blind from delousing chemicals. They put you in a cell, and when those iron bars slam home, man, it's for real. Your old life is blown away in the blink of an eye. There is literally nothing left but all the time in the world to think about it. Most new inmates come really close to madness that first night. But Andy, he didn't make a single sound.
The Shawshank Redemption, a story of pressure and time. At first, Red actually pegs Andy as a bit of a snob. He seemed completely out of place, a tall drink of water with a silver spoon up his back, a quiet guy who kept entirely to himself. He strolled the prison yard like a man in a park, without a single care in the world. As Red noted, it was kind of like Andy wore this invisible coat, shielding him from the bleak reality of Shawshank. It took a full month before Andy said more than 2 words to anyone. And when he finally did, he sought out the one man in Shawshank known to locate certain things.
Andy Dufresne seeks out a man who can get things. That man was Red. Andy walks up to him with this highly specific, unusual request, a rock hammer. It's a tiny tool, maybe 6 or 7 inches long, like a miniature pickaxe, typically used for quartz, mica, or shale. Red's immediate thought is, okay, he wants it as a weapon or maybe to tunnel under the wall. But Andy explains he is simply a rock hound, hoping to resume his old hobby on a limited basis. They strike a deal for $10. Red actually laughs it off, noting it would take a man 600 years to tunnel under the prison wall with a tool that small. And soon after, Andy makes another highly specialized request, a large poster of the actress Rita Hayworth.
But a rock hammer and a poster aren't going to shield you from the darkest terrors of prison life. As Red observed, I do believe those first 2 years were the worst for him. The Sisters kept at him. Andy became a massive target for a predatory gang known as the Sisters, led by a ruthless inmate named Boggs. Prison life is all about routine, right? Well, Andy's horrific routine involved brutal attacks, savage beatings, and spending weeks in the infirmary. He fought back, which honestly only made the beatings worse. This relentless pressure lasted for 2 grueling years. It only ended when a vicious beating put Andy in the infirmary for a month, and the captain of the guards, Byron Hadley, retaliated by beating Boggs so severely he was transferred to a minimum security hospital, basically destined to drink his food through a straw for the rest of his days. The attacks on Andy ended forever.
So the years inside begin to stack up. 1947, Andy arrives at Shawshank. 1949, tars the plate factory roof. 1965, Tommy Williams arrives. 1966, the escape. The narrative takes a massive turn in the spring of '49. Andy and Red are among a crew of convicts chosen to tar the roof of the license plate factory. It's here that Andy actually overhears Captain Hadley, complaining bitterly about a $35,000 inheritance from his brother, furious about the taxes the government is going to take. In an act of just staggering audacity, Andy approaches the notoriously violent guard, risking being thrown right off the roof. He explains that the IRS allows a one-time tax-free gift to a spouse. Andy offers to set up the legal forms, completely shielding the money from the government. His price for this financial salvation? Just 3 Bohemia-style beers apiece for each of his co-workers. And get this, the hardest guard in Shawshank actually complies, buying beer for a crew of convicts. Red observes that we sat and drank with the sun on our shoulders and felt like free men. They sat on that roof, drinking icy cold beer, feeling like the lords of all creation. Andy just sat alone in the shade with this strange little smile, watching them drink. He didn't even want a beer himself. He did it simply to feel normal again, if only for a short while.
This bold move completely changes Andy's trajectory, leading to him building the best prison library in New England. They pull him out of the brutal prison laundry and reassign him to assist the elderly librarian, Brooks Hatlin. But look, this is just a cover. The real reason is so the guards can use Andy to file their tax returns. Andy uses this new position to launch a relentless campaign, writing 1 letter a week to the state senate requesting funds for the library. For 6 years, he gets absolutely no answer. Finally, they send a tiny check for $200 and some used books, basically asking him to stop. Andy's response? He starts writing 2 letters a week. Talk about persistence. Eventually, he secures an annual payment of $500, transforming a room smelling of rat turds into the finest prison library in the region.
The tragedy of Brooks Hatlin shows the true underlying danger of Shawshank. These walls are funny. First you hate them, then you get used to them. Enough time passes, you get so you depend on them. Brooks had been at Shawshank since 1905. He was an educated, important man inside those walls. But after 50 years, he's paroled into a world he no longer recognizes. He's placed in a halfway house called the Brewer and bags groceries at the foodway, living in constant, terrifying fear of a society that went and got itself in a big damn hurry. Unable to cope on the outside and realizing he's just a used-up convict with arthritis, Brooks ultimately takes his own life. Red defines this state of existence perfectly. Brooks was institutionalized. The prison takes your life, the part that counts anyway.
Andy, however, absolutely refuses to be institutionalized. In a moment of pure, dangerous defiance, Andy locks himself inside the warden's office and plays a record of an Italian duet, The Marriage of Figaro, over the prison loudspeakers. The music just soars over the drab stone walls, making every last man in the yard feel totally free for the briefest of moments. Warden Norton is livid and throws Andy into solitary confinement, the whole, for 2 weeks. When Andy emerges, he tells the guys it was the easiest time he ever did, because he had the music in his head and his heart. He explains that they need things like music to remember that there are places in the world not made of stone, and that there is something inside you they can't ever touch: hope.
Meanwhile, Warden Norton institutes this public service program utilizing inmate slave labor to undercut local contractors, skimming massive bribes and kickbacks in the process. And Andy becomes the mastermind behind hiding all this dirty money. Step 1, channel it. Step 2, filter it. Step 3, funnel it. He runs the cash through stocks, securities, and tax-free municipals. To completely shield the warden and himself, Andy literally invents a person by mail, a phantom named Randall Stevens, complete with a birth certificate, driver's license, and social security number. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. On the outside, Andy was an honest man. He had to come to prison to become a crook. Then, jump to 1965. Tommy Williams reveals the truth about Elmo Blatch. Tommy is this young, cocky inmate who arrives on a breaking and entering charge. Andy takes a liking to the kid and actually helps him study for his high school equivalency exam. When Tommy learns why Andy is in Shawshank, he is stunned. He reveals that at a previous prison, he shared a cell with a twitchy, boastful burglar named Elmo Blatch. Blatch had explicitly bragged about doing a job at a country club, killing a golf pro and his wealthy lover, and laughing that they pinned it on the woman's hotshot banker husband. Andy realizes with absolute certainty that this is the truth. He finally has the key to his freedom.
Andy desperately takes this revelation straight to Warden Norton, begging for a chance at a new trial. But Norton's reaction is chillingly calculated. He completely dismisses the story as a fabrication, telling Andy, if you indulge this fantasy, that's your business. Don't make it mine. When Andy angrily suggests he would never reveal the money laundering if released, Norton realizes the immense threat Andy poses. He throws Andy in the hole for a grueling month. During that time, Norton meets with Tommy in the prison yard at night under the guise of an interview, only to have Captain Hadley brutally assassinate the young man from a guard tower, framing it as an escape attempt. Norton removes the only witness to Andy's innocence, ensuring his golden goose remains trapped forever.
After learning of Tommy's murder, Andy emerges from the hole a changed, broken man. In the prison yard, he tells Red about his dream of going to Zihuatanejo, a little place in Mexico on the Pacific Ocean, a warm place with no memory. Red dismisses it as a shitty pipe dream, warning Andy not to torture himself. But Andy replies with a profound ultimatum. I guess it comes down to a simple choice, really. Get busy living or get busy dying. Before walking away, Andy asks Red for a highly specific favor. He tells him about a hayfield in Buxton, Maine, with a long rock wall and a big oak tree.
He makes Red promise that if he ever gets out, he will find a specific piece of black volcanic glass at the base of that wall and dig up what's buried underneath.
That night, Andy asks a guard for a 6-foot length of rope. The inmates fear the absolute worst, remembering Brooks Hatlin. But the next morning, the guards are met with the impossible. It's 1966, and a man is up and vanished like a fart in the wind. Cell 245 is perfectly empty. The warden is summoned in a raging fury, interrogating Red and screaming at the guards. He cannot comprehend how an inmate could simply vanish from a locked cell in the middle of the night. In his sheer frustration, Norton grabs one of Andy's sculpted rocks from the windowsill and hurls it at the poster of Raquel Welch hanging on the cell wall.
But the rock doesn't bounce off the wall. It tears straight through the poster. As they rip the poster down, the impossible truth is revealed. Behind Raquel Welch is a massive, dark tunnel dug right into the thick stone of the prison. The items left behind tell the whole story. A muddy set of prison clothes, a bar of soap, an old rock hammer, a big goddamn poster. For nearly 20 years, using nothing but that tiny, worn-down rock hammer he bought from Red, Andy had chipped away at the wall. He disposed of the rubble out in the exercise yard, just a handful of dirt at a time, hidden inside his pockets.
Geology is the study of pressure and time. That's all it takes, really. Pressure and time. On the night of his escape, wearing the warden's freshly polished shoes, which, incredibly, the guard completely failed to notice, Andy slipped into the wall. He broke into the prison's plumbing system and crawled through 500 yards of shit-smelling foulness, just shy of half a mile of unthinkable filth. But he emerged on the other side into a rainstorm, stripping off his prison clothes and washing himself clean in the river. But Andy's masterstroke wasn't just physical escape, it was complete retribution. The very next morning, the phantom Randall Stevens visits the banks of Portland. Wearing the warden's tailored suit, Andy walked into nearly a dozen banks. Using the driver's license, birth certificate, and exact signatures he had carefully curated for years by mail, he effortlessly withdrew over $370,000 of Warden Norton's dirty money. Before skipping town, he calmly asked a bank teller to drop a package into the outgoing mail. The heavily detailed ledgers and evidence of Shawshank's corruption, addressed straight to the Portland Daily Bugle. The police arrived at Shawshank swiftly. Byron Hadley was arrested sobbing, and Warden Norton, rather than face the justice he so cruelly denied others, locked his office door and took his own life.
Meanwhile, the prison yard is just buzzing with the legend of Andy Dufresne. Red soon receives a blank postcard postmarked from Fort Hancock, Texas. Not long after the warden deprived us of his company, I got a postcard in the mail. Fort Hancock, Texas. That town sits right on the border. Red knows exactly what it means. He pictures Andy driving south with the top down, a man who crawled through a river of filth to come out clean, crossing the border into Mexico. Andy was finally heading for Zihuatanejo, to the warm place with no memory. While Red rejoices that his friend is free, recognizing that some birds just aren't meant to be caged, he deeply feels the empty space left behind.
40 years later, Red faces the parole board. He sits before them, but this time, the script is different. When asked if he feels rehabilitated, Red doesn't offer the desperate, pleading lies of his past. Instead, he bluntly calls rehabilitated a made-up politician's word. He expresses profound, genuine regret for the young, stupid kid he was when he committed his crime, acknowledging that he has to live with the old man he has become. He tells the board to stamp their form and stop wasting his time because he simply doesn't give a damn anymore. And ironically, that raw honesty is exactly what sets him free.
Paroled into the very same world that crushed Brooks Hatlin, Red finds himself working at the Foodway, asking permission just to use the restroom, entirely unequipped for freedom. The only thing stopping him from finding a way back inside is his promise to Andy. So Red hitchhikes up to Buxton and finds the exact hayfield with the rock wall and the big oak tree. Underneath a piece of black volcanic glass, he unearths a tin box. Inside is a wad of cash and a letter from Andy, officially inviting him to Zihuatanejo. The letter reminds him, "Remember, Red, hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and no good thing ever dies."
Faced with the exact same simple choice, get busy living or get busy dying, Red decides to violate his parole. He packs a bag, buys a compass, and boards a bus headed for the Texas border. As the landscape rolls by, the fear of the institutionalized man just washes away, replaced by the sheer thrill of a free man at the start of a long journey whose conclusion is delightfully uncertain. He journeys toward the deep blue waters of the Pacific, driven by a single powerful thought. I hope the Pacific is as blue as it has been in my dreams. I hope. After facing decades of darkness, Andy and Red prove that the mind can never truly be caged. So it leaves us with a question. If all your freedoms were stripped away tomorrow, what is the one hope you would hold on to in the dark?